Okay, today we're going to talk a little bit about packing the wheel bearings. I just had a customer, I think I did his bike 2 or 3 years ago, probably 3 years. And he sent me an email, wanted to know what's the procedure to repack his bearings, and I told him the procedure is don't do it. You got to understand that these are automotive, and they're probably about 30 times over what's required for a motorcycle. So they're really heavy duty. I really grease them pretty good. So there's really no need for, I told them 100 to 150,000 miles, you shouldn't do anything. You shouldn't have to change the brake pads. As you can see, the pads are 3/8 of an inch thick. In fact, let's compare them to a motorcycle set. Here's a standard Goldwing brake shoe. It's about a little over 1/8 of an inch thick, about a 3-inch long pad. You compare that to this, and you're looking at a substantial difference. The pads, now I put 160,000 miles on mine, my first conversion, and I wore about 12 thousandths of an inch off of this. So like I say, you're looking at a couple 100,000 miles on brake pads and probably about the same on the bearings. Now, if I buy these pre-packed, the bearings themselves are greased, but there's no grease in the hub. And what they do is they basically, and this is the way you actually pack these, is you put grease in on the edge, so it actually works its way through the bearing. And then you roll it like this, and you can feel it. I mean, it's quite viscous, and you can actually feel the difference that the bearing is pre-packed, and I can see there's actually grease that's coming out this edge here. So that's really how I pre-pack those. But in here, as you can see, I put a substantial amount of grease in here. And what happens is as the wheel spins, it's going to, centrifugal force is actually going to cause the grease to flow along the outside edges, and it will force its way into the bearings. And once that's done, I mean, these things are really greased quite well, and as you can see, I'm actually drowning this thing in grease. So once you pound it in, it's sealed up pretty good. And as you can see, there's grease, and I actually greased the lip itself. I found that on some of these, if they powder coat the spindles, the seal will actually start to squeal. And I've had to pull the rotors off and grease the bearing, the surface where this grease seal goes on there. So I'm going to turn this around and we're going to stick this one on. And as I say, I normally put a little grease right on this surface here. And I grease this portion here also. And this is just a film that I put on here. As you can see, it's just what I wet my fingers with. And that helps get the rotor on there. And it prevents the seal from squealing. And there you go. And I leave that part on there. I'll go ahead and prep the small bearing the same way I did the other one. And as you can see, there's ample grease in that bearing. Then I just work this stuff right on in there. And as you can see, some actually squirted out. Now there is a washer that goes on here, and it's keyed. As you can see, there's a little keyway thing there. So there's a procedure in tightening these. Use a regular crescent wrench. These bearings should not be tight. This is another one of those places where good and tight is not a good idea. So I kind of wiggle a little bit, but I'm just putting pressure just twisting. So that's a pretty mild pressure. It's just enough to take the slack out. And then this little collar here has an uneven number of detents in it, so you can rotate it around so you get the key in the correct place. And where the keyway is, this end of the cotter key should be opposite that. And the reason for that is if you run it the other way, the head of the cotter key will actually slip past this ring. And these are all right-hand thread. Once in a while you run into vehicles, Chrysler used to do it where they would go left hand on one side and right hand on the other. So there, that one is secured. And putting on the caps, there's a little trick to that too. Now the cap is powder coated, and you don't want to just pound on the cap. So what I do is I have a piece of pipe here that just hits the edge. And there, I didn't smash the heck out of the thing, but I got it to seat real well. It's not uncommon, and I have to make sure I tell customers this, that some grease will spray out here. As you notice, I put no grease in there. I never fill this with grease because that grease will eventually spray out of this. This is not a airtight seal. I mean, it's pretty snug and everything, but if you were to pump this up with pressure, you'd get grease squirting out both ends. So it's not really designed to hold the grease in here. And it will actually ooze a little grease out of here, which will end up with a little bit of splatter on the wheel. Doesn't happen all the time, but it can. So I just alert people that that is an issue that could happen. So there's one, and as you notice, these are vented and they do have water disbursement grooves in here. So it's important that those are facing the right way too, so that it, again, centrifugal force will spray the water out. So that's pretty much the procedure in getting these things packed. I'll go ahead and put the calipers on here, and I can go ahead and throw the wheels on this baby, and she's ready to roll.